Hello, I'm Pam Hoffman, Everyday Spacer.
I'm Jeff Miller, 2049 Outfitters.
At Everyday Spacer, we show regular folks how to personally and directly participate in space exploration, science, and astronomy. We're here on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, 12 midnight Eastern Time. It's 2 p.m. on Saturday in Queensland, Australia, though, and we're broadcasting live from Thousand Oaks, California this week. Thanks for joining us. Just a couple reminders. I will be in Ohio next week. That's November the 4th for that episode. And we are changing our time. On November 6th, we will fall back. We'll figure that out later.
So yes, our time will be different for those of you who don't play with daylight savings time.
Right.
Tonight's topic is spooky science because it's not Easter.
Yes,
Halloween.
it's Easter. Trick or treat.
You could see it, maybe a Halloween version of the Easter Bunny.
Uh-huh. You gonna say it?
Oh, we'll be back in 8.3 seconds. Oh yeah, let's just.
We do have a comment. Hi, Jeannie. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Oh, you changed your title up there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, it's almost Halloween. If you have a spooky topic, we'd love to include that in our show as well tonight. But to kick things off, I'll talk about quantum physics. But first, got something to show you, just because. Yeah.
See if it worked. Hey, it worked.
Yeah. And let's scroll that down a little bit too.
I gotta get over there.
And just this dropped. Just because it's very Wraith-like. I mean, if you watched Lord of the Rings or something, you could swear that there's a Nazgul in there somewhere, maybe more than one. So that's all.
I do like what they say about taking it from which one? There's a different camera on board. Here it is, MIRI, mid-infrared instrument. They thought it was terrifying.
Yeah.
All right, back to us.
Okay, so we'll be talking about quantum physics. Mostly, there's nothing really spooky about it, except that Albert Einstein said that it was spooky action at a distance, because you can have things. You can flip one electron, and another one somewhere else will flip to basically have opposite spins.
But only once, right?
Right, yeah.
After so that, it kind of breaks.
Well, we haven't found a way of keeping the connection. So yes, it breaks. Because part of it is with quantum dynamics, for really small particles, you never know exactly where they are. And it doesn't seem real, except that it works. They have found, like in electronics, the traces on a chip can only be so close because electrons will jump from one to the other.
They tunnel through. Yeah.
And they're not going through the material.
Oh, they're not?
No.
Oh, okay. No, I read an article that said they were.
No, it's just, it'll appear here. It'll move from here and appear here, because each electron, when you get down that small, is a probability field.
Yes.
And if that probability field is bigger than the distance between the two traces, it can be on either one, and will sometimes be on either one or both. But that gets into so I just wanted to start off with that, mostly because give you guys time to show up and start with that.
And there's lots of fun things around that. Do you remember the show we watched, and the guy was trying to explain quantum physics, and he said it's like going to a bar and ordering something, and the bartender says, "I'll try."
Yes.
There is try in quantum physics.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's for you.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, quantum physics is weird
Very strange.
I guess it'd be scary for people who don't really understand it or who really try to understand it.
Or don't like things that don't work
Yeah,
the
that
way
don't
you
make
think they
yeah,
should work.
yeah, that don't make sense necessarily because
Yeah.
it's one of the quantum physics um, key people in quantum physics is if you think you understand quantum physics, you don't.
Yes.
And he was the one who understood the most about it. So
And it just keeps going like that. There's all kinds of weird things around it.
mhm.
Actually, there's a really cool song by Hawkwind. It's cool or Strangest and Charmed, and they have different names for everything. Because you break down not just the particles we know about, electrons, neutrons, protons, but it's within those too. So I think it's cool. All right. Did you want to say anything else about quantum physics?
Not unless someone brings up something that they want to hear about.
Okay.
It's just interesting. I mean, it's a possibility. The bigger the particle, the less chance of it just showing up. Oh, in quantum physics, particles can just show up and disappear. The bigger it is, the less the chance.
Okay.
Theoretically, a particle with as much mass as our entire universe could have just shown up and exploded and become the universe. The chance is really small, but it only had to happen once.
Okay.
So that's one that's they can't ever prove. So it's just a thought, it's just a thought experiment right now.
All right.
Okay, let's get.
So let's see. I wanted to talk about. Oh, I should have set this up. Sorry.
Oops.
Not quite ready.
Not quite ready? Okay.
Here we go, though. This is okay.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about something called ball lightning. And I'm showing you this because my friend from Boeing told me that he had seen ball lightning. And I thought it was once. I asked him the other day to please write to me about that. And he says, well, the first encounter was in Lapeer, Michigan, at my uncle's house. I was reading a magazine when something bright came through the large window, bouncing off the floor and hit the wall in the kitchen. My mom was in the kitchen cooking, and I heard her say something, so I knew she saw it too. I said, a little shocked, what was that? She said it was something they call ball lightning. I asked if it will hurt you, but she didn't know, and we still don't know. She said if I pull the curtains, it tends to dissipate. I don't know if that's true or not. That was in the summer of '66. And again, like I said, I learned that he had another encounter in the early '70s. He lived in Houghton, Michigan. There was a strange electrical activity going on during a rainstorm. We lived near the top of a large hill. My wife commented on the strange weather, and I told her the story of the ball lightning. She was skeptical. About 10 minutes later, I was sitting in front of one of the windows in the living room reading the newspaper. Again, a bright light zoomed over my shoulder, bounced off the kitchen floor, and hit the wall. This time it crackled and flashed and discolored the paper, the wallpaper. It's like, what's that? Well, it was just like I was saying. And there are plenty of skeptics, sure. And this one person, like I said, we worked at Boeing, and there was somebody who was skeptical there, but he was from Southern California, and there's just not that much lightning here. So maybe Michigan would be a good place to go and look for this. I do like what he says, my friend John says about new equipment at the launch pad. Surge protectors built the power lines, and designers said it would even stop a direct hit of lightning. Well, John knows that if a direct lightning hit, it's something is giving a molten mass. He says, I saw it at the radio station I worked at. The transmitter was mostly melted. I've been on barns and the lightning rods are half melted. A friend had a TV antenna with a rotor hit, and the rotor box was all melted together. We had to cut it in two to see what was inside. Nothing recognizable. Plus, our antenna was half gone and the tower damaged. In the '70s, a woman in Petoskey, Michigan, was on the phone and a lightning strike blew her across the house. So cell phones are safer than landlines. Now, yeah.
Oh, just David has some stuff about ball lightning.
Yay.
But first, he made a comment about quantum physics. So.
Yes, let's do that first.
So this is from Dave. Quantum physics. It's like this phrase from Alice in Wonderland. Alice says asked the rabbit how to get out of the hole. It says, It's that way, but you can't get there from here.
Very good. What else does David have for
Okay,
us?
so this is ball lightning is real.
Okay.
In the war years, pilots reported glowing lights on their wings. It was a form of plasma, i.e., ball lightning.
Cool.
Yeah, it was also the light on the wings could have been St. Elmo's fire, which is kind of like grounded to something. Yeah, commonly called Foo Fighters. So
yeah, I did actually encounter that when I was looking because I did some search.
Oh.
Go ahead and put it up on the. Oh, we got another one.
Yeah, in one case, I know of ball lightning came in to the front of a passenger plane and rolled down the aisle and exited the rear of the plane. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird stuff.
Okay.
So we have a nice Wikipedia page. It's a rare and unexplained phenomena described as luminescent spherical objects. They can be a variety of sizes. Okay, and they talk about St. Elmo's fire here too. Okay, what do they say? Which is fire, weather phenomenon. Okay, plasma created in a discharge from rod-like objects such as a mass. Okay.
Yeah, in fact, you can see on the masts, it was, they showed it discharging off of the ends of the masts.
Yeah, at the top here.
Top and the sides. Take a look at.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Just basically anything that's out by itself.
Got it.
And World War II airplanes had a lot of things sticking out.
Okay.
A lot of them.
So yeah, and I've got a video here that do talk about a number of hypotheses to explain this. So here's a drawing of it, and some various people have reported it. Some pretty interesting things here, actually, and it's pretty spooky. Oh yeah, thunderstorm. And I actually thought that my friend John Dowling was telling me that there was no weather happening for the one I thought. But fortunately, he was able to send me a good account, and that's what I shared at the beginning.
Yeah.
So, and I see Scott has. Welcome, Scott. Welcome, everybody. We're glad you're here, Dave and Scott and Janie.
Scott says, I've never seen the Northern Lights, but they seem really spooky to me. Okay, well, we'll talk about that later.
Excellent. Yes. All right. So let's see. I did find some pretty cool videos, although this one, I'll just run it just briefly. Let's see if I can get to the point where he was talking about. Yeah, this guy caught supposedly a ball going across some train tracks. And sparking off of the rails. Now, we find out later that this was actually something this fellow created. It is not real. I think he does talk about something else. Yeah, here we go. Something a little later.
Sound natural with being in the outdoors.
So, oh, okay, that wasn't it. Where is it?
Sounds like something that.
Yeah, it's more like here. Something in Russia. They have
likelihood, and they're not seeing a lot of evidence of either. It does kind of reduce the likelihood that is.
Yeah, there it is. And this is supposedly meters tall.
Hans concedes that so little is known about ball lightning that it's hard to rule out.
It is a very poorly understood phenomenon, and because it's difficult to capture.
Yeah, it's very rare, so it's very hard to study. And this is the guy that had all kinds of theories about it. He mentions different theories from different places, so that's pretty cool. If we want the links, we can put those in the chat for you if you like.
Yep.
But yeah, he just goes on and talks about all the various theories, and it's really, really interesting what people think this might be. So that's my part on bow lightning. And now we can come back to us.
Okay.
Because you got...
Yep. Okay. Oh,
hey, Cliff.
Hi, Cliff.
Welcome.
And Donald would call that fake news. Yeah. Well,
Donald too.
I think he's thinking Trump because he doesn't know our Donald.
Oh. No, he wouldn't know our Donald.
Okay, let's talk about Northern Lights.
Yes.
Basically, our magnetosphere kind of, you have the Earth here. Magnetosphere is kind of, follows the magnetic lines, and at the north and south poles, they come in, and actually touch the ground because they're going through the center of the Earth there.
Well, and this is because we have a
Molten core that spins.
molten core of metal in the middle of our planet.
And it spins and it acts like a dynamo.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah. But so what happens when charged particles from space come in and hit our atmosphere, or some of them do hit the atmosphere and there's not enough density to actually see anything. But some of them hit these magnetic lines at just the right angle and energy to be swept up along the magnetic line. And so you get a concentration of them near the poles. The more activity there is, the farther away from the poles they tend to get. But
yeah, I've seen some from Conneaut, Ohio, which is very far south.
Yeah,
actually, nothing near the pictures you see.
Yeah.
However, it was like, oh.
Well, by the time it gets, the ones that are so far south that we can see them, because I saw them in Michigan too, is that they just appear white because it's not dense enough to cause enough. And you're not actually seeing the cosmic particles. What they're doing is they're hitting the atmosphere and fluorescing it, kind of like a fluorescent tube.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll hit, depending on the energy of the particle, it'll hit different molecules at different times. So you'll get green, you get pink rarely, yellows, white is just either a bunch of stuff or, it's just hitting random stuff. And it's just basically bright enough to see when it's really dark. So all they are is the atmosphere fluorescing when the charged particles hit it, which means
these are from the sun.
Most
charged particles
mostly,
from the sun, right?
Mostly.
Okay.
So if we have high sunspots, we'll have lots of northern lights. If we have a CME, coronal mass ejection, we will have northern lights and a bad day for the power grid.
Possibly, yes.
Yeah.
We've been really lucky. They've been mostly like, oh, there was one, but it was on the other side.
It missed. Yeah.
Yeah. And a couple things I would like to add. There's a really cool Facebook group online, and they will take pictures and share them. They'll talk about it. There's actually a website that tries to predict the intensity of them and when would be a good time to go out. And I asked my friend Radine, because she lives in Canada, Manitoba, she actually paints them. It's incredible work. However, I asked her, so when is the best time to go and see these? And she says, well, they're around all year long. It's just that in the winter, the nights are longer in the northern hemisphere, and you have a better shot at seeing them, because there's more nighttime.
Yeah.
And that's when you basically can see them.
Yeah.
Because if it fluoresces during the day, it's
not bright enough to see.
No.
In fact, that's why we only see white, because it's not actually bright enough to kick in our color receptors in our eyes.
Oh, okay. Cones, right.
Yeah.
And actually other planets have.
Yeah. We've detected
aurora.
It in Mars. In fact, we actually did a thing for Zooniverse about seeing them on Mars. They're rare, very rare on Mars because the atmosphere is so thin. No, that's not right. That was something else that we did on Mars.
Okay.
Because Mars doesn't have a magnetic field, so there's no way it could have them.
No.
But we have seen them on Jupiter.
Its core has cooled over the centuries. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have seen them on Jupiter.
Which implies that there is a metal core in the center of Jupiter.
Or even just the hydrogen.
Oh.
Hydrogen, when it compresses enough, becomes a metal.
Okay. All right. Got it.
But also, astronauts have seen this high level what is it again? Northern light, aurora. This high level aurora that's too faint for us to see, but they can see it against the blackness of space, and it's actually higher up in the atmosphere than our aurora show up.
Okay.
and those are often red or blue.
There's a lot of strange things out there I've heard of called sprites,
Mhm.
and there's another one. Oh, I should have pulled up.
Elf.
Yeah, elves, and they're sort of related. They're interrelated.
Yeah, and
That
both
kind of
sprite and elf are acronyms because they like doing that.
Yes.
Um,
Right. Please, if you have something you want to discuss, explore, talk
Yeah.
to us. Post a comment, and we'll go down that rabbit hole. Speaking of rabbit hole, you had another one.
yeah, just going. Saw an article that had the oh
Oh,
Cliff.
here we go.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, but I think they get them more on the North Pole than the South Pole anyway.
I think so.
Just because of the direction of the magnetic fields is pulling stuff in on the North Pole.
Okay, yeah, I think you're right.
I'm not sure, but I think that I've read that. So,
Yeah, I would love to go up there and see them too. And I have a friend in Canada now, so
yeah.
maybe I'll visit her someday.
And just because of the season, saw an article about potential origins of werewolves and vampires. Okay, for one thing, werewolves and vampires are a whole spread of critters. And basically each town in Eastern Europe and Central Europe.
And just so you know, his family comes from Romania.
Yeah. Would have their
Or
own
Transylvania.
Yeah. Would have their own version of
Is that why you're so fascinated with this?
That started, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So each town would have its own version of the monster, whatever it was. And they'd have different traits, different, So when Bram Stoker wrote Dracula, he took a whole bunch of these and put them into one critter, which was a vampire, which he called a vampire. And vampire was just, it's a corruption of one of the words for one of the monsters, but it didn't have all of the same abilities. In fact, being able to turn into a wolf kind of sounds like a werewolf, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But they were talking about the origins of this. And one of the thoughts is if you eat a diet largely of corn that hasn't been processed with lye to take out some of the chemicals in it, you get symptoms that make your skin very light sensitive and make your skin look really bad, like a corpse type skin. Makes your eyes light sensitive, and stuff like that. The only problem with that is that we didn't get corn in Europe until after the Americas got conquered, and that was after all of these critters were talked about. So, so that might have helped spread a new wave of them. But the original, they're thinking, aside from just a way to explain plagues and people dropping from disease for no reason, which is a big one, is they think that it was rabies. Because rabies makes you, water-phobic, hydrophobic, and, vampires can't cross running water type of thing. They also make you photophobic because it bugs their eyes and makes people want to bite and scratch. And how is rabies spread? How is vampirism spread? How is, how is werewolf spread?
Yeah.
How's vampire movies spread? So
yeah,
they're thinking that rabies was the origin for those, because there are so many different versions of those critters. In fact, one that probably didn't have anything to do with rabies was a vampire would walk the city walls or the castle walls, and if you called out your name, you would die in your sleep.
Oh wow.
Well, which I mean, it's got to be Black Death or something like that. I mean, but that's a vampire also, or a critter, or Okay. So every city had its own. So okay, let's see.
Yeah, we got a couple more comments on. Thanks so much. We really appreciate that. Here's a question. Everything is bigger in the U.S. Our TV says so. So why do you northern dudes have stronger and more colorful aurora than our southern dudes? I don't think we are, in fact, bigger.
Yeah.
Australia is pretty darn big.
Well,
And
about the same land area.
I
think.
I think so.
But
and we kind of talked about.
Yeah, I think it's just because of the magnetic field kind of travels this way, and the charged particles are of the correct charge to be pulled north instead of south. If the charged particles were, the other charge, they'd be pulled south.
Well, but the interesting thing about it is that sometimes this does flip.
Yeah.
So
Once every
possibly
200,000 years, I think it flips.
Yeah, I don't remember. But one of the other things, too, if you think about it, there are fewer people at the South Pole than there are at the North Pole. So it's possible that there's something there still, but it's either not as witnessed as often. It may not be as bright. It may not be. There's lots of possible.
Well, at the true South Pole, one of the things is that since the magnetic field pulls stuff north, we get very little hitting our atmosphere. At the true South Pole, the magnetic field isn't above the atmosphere. It's coming from the ground and going around. So there's a hole on the South Pole that the particles could hit. So it's possible that you get them at the true South Pole, but they'd be fairly faint and definitely not visible from any great distance.
Yeah, and again, there are fewer people that are
right
in that area generally. All right, Cliff says there is new talk about a molten core still on Mars as they have found fresh volcanic vent.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
I did not know that. Thank you for sharing
that'd be
that.
Interesting. So. It's apparently not as active as ours because, there's no magnetic field. But theoretically, our core might be bigger than other planets.
Okay.
Because when Thea hit us and smacked us and almost wiped us out, creating the moon, all of the lighter stuff flew off, and moon is basically made out of mantle material. But you have 2 planets worth of core. Well, our planet and like a Pluto-sized planet.
I had heard it was a Mars-sized
or Mars-sized, yeah, somewhere in there. But so you've got that extra core in there. So our core is bigger than normal.
Okay.
So makes you wonder, in an exoplanet that is in the Goldilocks zone, if we ever get out there, would they have a weaker magnetic field? Possibly.
Which could be a problem because part of what protects us on this Earth is our magnetic field that's fairly strong.
And they've found Earth-like planets that are bigger than Earth, but are basically about as dense because they don't, they have a normal-sized core. So
I'm sure there's tons and tons of different combinations out there. Yeah, did you have more to say about that? Sorry.
Oh, just also they found diamonds from space that are in a hexagon pattern instead of a cube pattern. Oh. And they've actually figured out how they could have been created that way.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So I don't know how they look. I don't think they found anything more than like microscopic crystals of them.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But it'd be interesting to play with.
All right. So we got a comment from Daniel. Welcome, Daniel. Glad you're here with us. Maybe the lack of southern lights has to do with the secret hollow Earth and other secret Antarctic-based coincidences theories. I bet. Not my area of expertise. If anyone out there knows anything about that, Daniel would like to have a conversation, apparently. I really can't help you. Sorry.
I'm thinking that if the Earth was hollow, we'd go crunch until it wasn't hollow.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, the gravitational pull would bring everything together.
Yeah, you'd have to start proposing more and more stuff to make that work.
I see. Well, and that's how scientific theories happen. Once upon a time, we thought everything revolved around the Earth, and they had models, and they had scientists, or philosophers, who would explain why that worked and how. And then other things happened. Oh, Dave comes back. Mars lives. Seismic readings from NASA's InSight probe on the surface tell us Mars' core is larger and less dense than previously thought. I had not heard about that. I know about Insight though. That's very cool, David. Thank you so much for sharing with us. We really appreciate that. Anything else on werewolves and vampires, Jeff?
No, I just saw that and thought, hey, if we're doing a show on spooky science, let's do that.
Very good. All right. I do have a couple of other things I wanted to talk about. Go ahead and share. So it was weird to me that I did a search for spooky science and voila, there are things that came up for spooky science. These are activities and there's all kinds of cool things in here. Especially if you're a kid, you can do slimy brains, candy experiments, witches brews, body part science activities. There's all kinds of stuff on this site. Yeah, look at that. Dissect a quote brain. And they did lead to lots and lots of other links. So I didn't actually go to any of these, but hey, things to do. That's what I really like to talk about.
Yep. And we'll post links to these.
Yeah, we'll gather these up. One of the things I was quite surprised at was how many of these places are doing something for Halloween. And this is this year. Look at that, 2022. So these different places have all kinds of cool things going on in regards to Halloween. So that's neat. So if you're maybe look in your area. Oh, this one's a good one. This is U.S. Geological Survey, right? Survey. They have some stuff about places in the world that are kind of spooky. Cemetery, creepy cave. Look at that. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
A morbid trench, a skeleton in the deep sea, which is a view. Shaky Halloween. This one's interesting. Not exactly mummies and not exactly zombies, but they're very old, desiccated, diseased, and dead. A study of museum snake specimens shows snake fungal disease, a skin infection threatening many important living snake populations. So over the 50 years, it was more than they previously thought. These are caused by freaky fungus. Snake fungal disease can lead to skin lesions, scabs, and crusty scales. Who'd have thought a snake could get a fungus? Well, they're cold. So I guess that makes sense. We're very well protected from getting fungal diseases because we're hot. And maybe that's why we're experiencing the heating up of the earth. It's trying to protect us. Don't know. Just an idea. Theories. That's how science works. We come up with theories. So I think this is a rain gauge. And they mentioned Lizzie Borden. Have you seen anything like this near you? Bat battles one disease, avoids another. Swampy science. Yeah, this one's wild. History of the park. Oh, this is cool. They found that these rocks were just moving. I was like, what the heck? These are heavy rocks. How do they move? I guess between the wind and the frozen turf, the frozen tundra here, they kind of just got scooched along by the wind. So I think they figured out this one eventually, but for a while it was like very mysterious. Why were these rocks appearing to be in a different place than they started? And it keeps going.
Okay. Oh, Cliff has a.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Cliff says there's a magnetic field on Mars, but many points instead of just 2 like us. Mars have about 15. So it sounds like there's pockets of molten metal in there.
That would explain things.
But it's obviously not high enough to basically retain its atmosphere, because that's one of the things that our magnetic field does for us, is that it blocks the solar wind and thus doesn't let the solar wind strip away our atmosphere, which is what happened to Mars.
Yeah. So here's the Arizona Science Center. They have so here's a search term. Put spooky science and see if there's something near you, a place you can go for fun things to do. You got a few days left for the month. This one's near us, Discovery Cube, Los Angeles. And they got a lot of things for the kids. I like that one. So now through the 31st. Maybe you can find something near you. Even small places like this you know, LA is a big city. You'd think, you know, more common, but here we are, Beach Creek, spooky science. So maybe there is a possibility in your area. Alexandria, I just found loads of them. So it looks like there's lots of variety and also for different age ranges too. So that's pretty cool.
Down there.
Like I said, I like to show you things you can do. And there those were. All right. So did we get anything else from?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Did you have anything else you want to talk about?
Not right now.
Okay. So I want to encourage you because there are a couple of meteor showers coming up. To get your free meteor shower chart. Oh, let's get this one up here too. Meteorshowerchart.com is a great place to go for that. You just go to the site, you click, you put your information in, and click the button, and it will deliver it to you for free. All right, go ahead. You're up.
Okay. All right, let's get rid of the banner.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay. Some stellar events this week, October 28th through November 4th. And now David.
That's
comes.
cool. Let's get it before you dive into your
Yep.
spooky stuff, guys.
We just
Okay. Curiosity Mars rover first color photograph of a sunset in 2015 revealed a surprising twist. Sunsets on Mars are blue. Yes. Very cool, right? I think their normal sky is kind of pink. Lots of dust in the air. Is there other reasons for it? The composition of the atmosphere?
Yeah, it's mostly blue because that's what
Well,
it is.
the sunsets are blue.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly pink during kind of the Mars
It's
day.
dust. It's
It's
dust.
because of dust. Okay.
From what I've heard, and take this with a grain of salt, is that the color of the sky does not depend on the composition of the sky. It depends on the density of the sky.
Density. All right.
The higher the density, the redder it looks, which is why sunsets look red, because there's essentially more sky for the sun
Yeah,
for the light
right.
to go
Instead of pointing straight through the atmosphere, it's coming
right
through a lot more atmosphere from a tangent.
Yeah. So
A tangent.
theoretically, different worlds would have different sky colors based on the density of the atmosphere, not the composition, but just,
Yeah, I have a feeling dust has something to do with it too, because we have dust, but not like Mars with,
Mhm.
I mean, they can have some serious dust storms.
Yep.
Compared to the Earth.
Yep.
Probably because it's smaller, right?
Smaller, yeah, and well, the low atmosphere pressure doesn't help there be dust because there's not as much air to hold the dust up.
Okay.
But because the sun can hit the ground, it fractures the rock into minuscule particles. And
Okay,
since
so
the
there's less
gravity's
atmosphere to protect Mars'
from the
surface.
right from the UV rays,
Okay, got it.
and that plus the lower gravity lets the dust hang in the air
Okay.
longer.
All right, David came back with dust in the Martian atmosphere has fine particles that permit blue light to penetrate the atmosphere more efficiently than longer wavelength colors like yellow, orange, and red. Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you, David. That's really cool.
Yep.
All right, you want to try and get through this?
Okay, sure. Some stellar events this week, October 28th through November 4th. October 31st, Pluto and the Moon are in conjunction, which is kind of appropriate since Pluto is the Roman god of the underworld, basically Roman version of Hades.
Hard to see though, but
November 1st is the first quarter moon, and Saturn and the Moon are in conjunction. November 2nd, weekly space hangout. Excuse me. Revisiting Apollo photographically with Andy Sanders. And here's from their website.
you want me to read it?
I'm sure.
This week we are airing our pre-recorded interview with Andy Saunders, the author and creative force behind the new book, Apollo Remastered. Andy used his talents and expertise to digitally remaster and restore the original flight film from America's first missions to the moon. Universe's today's own Nancy Atkins, who's written over 6,000 articles for Universe Today, and is also a weekly Space Hangout alumna, interviewed Andy this past month, and is as a special treat, Nancy is joining us tonight as well. That's Wednesday, November the 2nd.
Yep. Okay, November 4th, our Friday night show, and it's astronomy and space terms. Find us, sorry,
Fridays at 9 p.m. Pacific time on the Everyday Spacer Facebook page and the Everyday Spacer
Yeah.
YouTube channel. You want to finish?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Also, on the 4th, Jupiter and the moon are in conjunction, and Neptune and the moon are in conjunction.
See, we keep using conjunction. We want to cover
Yeah.
some of those terms.
And which means that Jupiter and Neptune are in conjunction.
Yes, right. We got another comment.
Yeah.
CO2 would have a big effect on the atmosphere.
Yeah. And I don't know if it has a big effect on the color of the atmosphere, but that's open for debate. Like I said, one source said that it doesn't, but that's only one source. So
Oh, here's another spooky thing. With
uh,
kids born on Mars in the future will become Martians. Ah.
Yep.
Well, if you're from Chicago, you're a Chicagoan. If you're from Ohio, you're an Ohioan.
if
I
you're
think
from
from Michigan, you're a Michigander, right?
Michigander, yes.
A Michigander?
Yes.
Like goose?
Yes. Oh,
Wow,
yes.
I thought it was
Um,
gander. That's funny.
People from Australia are Australians. People from New Zealand are Kiwis.
Maybe they'll become Martians. Maybe they'll figure out something else. All right, and so some other events and activities, and we've talked about these a lot. The Regeneron Science Talent Show Search 2023 application is now open until November the 9th. We got links for that too. Am I doing the banner? I think it's cool because students can win like big prizes, $250,000 in this case.
I'm looking for it.
I think it's yeah, that up one, yeah. There, yeah.
That one. There we go.
Thank you for waiting. They actually have 4 competitions altogether: Science Talent Search, International Science and Engineering Fair, Broadcast Masters, and Affiliated Fair Network. Space Prize has a speaker series. They're not creating new ones, but they do have a archive. Let me go ahead and add that to the chat. No, Dave. He has some smoker's cough.
Go ahead and show it. No, it's an asthma cough. Sorry
Jeff
about
has
that.
Never smoked in his life.
No, unfortunately, I grew up around people who did, and so and I grew up in the 70s in LA. If you've ever seen a movie with LA in it in the 70s, you know what color that sky was. The air was there.
We like to say around here that if you can't see the sky, you can't trust it.
Yeah. Well, we don't say that anymore because you can't see the sky anymore.
No,
but
it's much better.
it used to be, a grayish brown was the color of the sky.
Yeah. Also, the Space Education Symposium, there's a link for that too, is going to be on November the 12th. This is a free online event. Check it out. This is hosted by the Human Space Program, and Frank White is associated with that group. 4th round of Nominate a Student with Perseverance, October 3rd to 31st. Almost done. And they've added a couple of rounds, so we'll have to talk about those later. The 6th through 8th grade students in the U.S. public, private, and homeschools are eligible. Lots of cool prizes there. And we got more comments.
Okay.
We need to go to Vulcan.
Well,
do you know where that is?
Yeah. First, we have to find it.
We've been reviewing the Babylon 5 shows, and it's really kind of cool because they have people from Centauri, which is actually one of the closest places to us. An actual star that's fairly close to we here on Earth.
Well, they picked all of their locations as being real stars. I mean,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he tried really hard to do that.
Yeah, JMS is
and
pretty cool.
Just my rant on Vulcan. They have low oxygen, but copper blood. Copper blood does not transfer oxygen as efficiently as iron blood.
Well, you'd want something more efficient if you're in a low oxygen.
But apparently,
atmosphere.
Vulcans are stronger, etc., than humans because of their copper blood. That doesn't make sense to me.
Maybe when you put them in an Earth atmosphere, they're stronger.
Well, okay. That's what you get when you don't have science fiction writers writing science fiction.
Well, some of them were written by science fiction.
The stories were, but the actual creation of everything wasn't.
We will continue to look for your comments. We do want to, wrap it up here, I guess.
Okay.
it's kind of I'm getting ready for my trip, so we're kind of like keeping it real low key. Next week will be kind of easy too.
Yeah, and
because I will just have gotten there.
Yeah, so if you or someone you know has done something interesting involving space exploration, science, or astronomy, we'd love to share our live. Join us again next Friday, November 4th, for astronomy and space terms. Also, just want to put this out there: the following week, I'll be doing Let's Build a Moon Colony, and want to discuss where you'd want it, how big you would want it, what you would want to make it out of, basically everything that would go into making a moon colony. And I wanted to make sure that that you guys had enough time to think about it. If you wanted to send stuff to us via Facebook, or for me to talk about, great. If you want to just keep notes so that you can post them up in the comments, that's cool too. I want to be as interactive as we can, barring the fact that our most prolific commenters and most active people are in Australia, and we have really bad signal between us and Australia, so it makes it hard to do it voice and video. But if you can participate through comments, that'd be great.
Yeah, best way is this email address. I check that all the time. The phone number there is to the landline at home, which will stay here when I go.
Yeah, but
so it'll ring and ring and ring for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, email is a great way. I think I see something else here too.
Oh, Lost in Space.
No, I think we're.
Oh no, David's
one.
comment, yeah, and yeah. No, actually, I missed that mostly. I was too young during that time. So I kind of missed it by about 5 to 10 years. I have a buddy who went through that.
November 11th is also Veterans Day. Yes, in the United States. I think that's the United States holiday. So next week, we want to talk about some of the words we use, because we use a lot of words, conjunction, eclipse. So we'll just delve into some of those terms and definitions. We definitely encourage your input as well. I have a whole page that has that kind of stuff on it. Maybe I'll get a chance to update some too, because a lot of blank spots.
Yeah, some of those don't have descriptions for them.
No, they don't. Not yet. All right, we'll keep watching for your comments. Thank you so much for being here. Janie and Cliff and Dave and Daniel and Scott, I think, was up here, right?
Yep.
Scott, there's Scott. Did I miss anybody? I think I got everybody.
Yep.
Thanks so much. We really appreciate you being here. Have a great week.
Yeah.
And we will see you on the 4th. I'll be in Ohio and Jeff will be here.
Yep.
Good night.
Good night.